Hi, this is Representative Al Baldessau, and we're back again with Who's Looking Out for You, with my co-host, Representative Janine Notter from Merrimack.
Hi,
It's
Al.
awesome, and I got to ask her, I always ask her this question. I see she has a marathon book here. How many miles today or yesterday?
Well, yesterday I ran 11. Today
11
I only ran
miles.
4 because I woke up late and it was already really, really hot.
As an
So,
old Marine, you're making up for what I missed out on. Yeah.
but my year-to-date total is now 940 miles
Wow.
since January 1st.
You know, we got a special guest today, Deputy Speaker of the House, 28 years there.
You've
up
been
in
there
as a
28
legislator.
years?
I've been there 28
But the thing
years.
about the 28 years, he's consistent. As you know, conservative vote. He don't support any taxes and fees. He's always looking out, fighting for Londonderry residents.
Looking out for you.
And he's the Deputy Speaker. Representative Sherm Packard, welcome. It's an honor.
Welcome, Deputy,
Yeah.
Deputy Speaker.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, yes. So you're running again.
Running again.
Yeah, so what else, what's happening? I mean, what made you decide to go this long? I mean,
Well, I said that from my first time when I got elected back in 1990, I said, as long as I can make a difference and, I can afford to run, I'm going to run. And I've been fortunate enough to be able to do both. I mean, make a difference
right,
and, been able to financially, even though it's hurt sometimes,
right.
but financially I've been able to handle it. So I
Awesome.
decided to do it at least one more time.
And he owns a business here in town.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Canvas work and
Automotive upholstery.
automotive upholstery and does boat seats and does everything. I brought a canvas over to him one day. My brother-in-law ripped a brand new boat riding down the highway with it. We were supposed to take the canvas off. He didn't.
Uh-oh.
Brand new boat, ripped it all up within no time. He had it back up and running, all fixed and like it was brand new again. But your father was a state rep, you said also, right?
Well, he was in the state senate
State Senate,
in the 50s and Senate President 59 and 60. And then he ran for Congress against the 20-year incumbent, Chester Merrill, and
Wow.
he lost in the primary. And then he hooked on with Louis Wyman the following term, and he was with Louis his whole time in office.
Wow.
Oh, I didn't know that either. I like your tie, by the way.
Yeah.
No, it's unbelievable.
I got this at Mount Rushmore. We were out there
I
a
went
few
there
years ago.
last year. We were talking
Did
before.
you run it?
No,
No?
I was. It was
Yeah.
incredible. Have you ever been to Mount Rushmore? Put it on your bucket list. It is incredible. Absolutely.
Well, Sherm, you were a big player in the budget being passed. And I knew like there was about $80–90 million of it that was court cases that we had to pay off because everyone's saying, oh, the budget expanded, we're spending too much, but it was really, we had no choice in some of them areas. So, you were behind the scenes in a lot
Well,
of stuff.
whenever you do a budget, no matter who's in charge, it's difficult. Fortunately, we have kept the budget in check, when we're in power. We've always done that. Could this have been cut maybe a little bit? Probably. I think there could have been some cuts in there, I mean, how much? It's tough to judge. But unlike the Democrats, we only spend as much as we take in.
Right.
When I was the Republican leader back in 9 and 10, we knew they were spending way too much. And we predicted that there would be an $800 million hole in the budget. And when we took over the following term, we picked up 125 seats. You got to remember, they raised taxes. Over 100 taxes and fees were raised between 7 and 10.
Department of Motor
100.
Vehicles, right?
100.
Car tax, whatever that was.
Everything.
When
They
I
raised everything.
ran the first time I campaigned on that, I had a flyer that I sent out as far and wide as I could,
Yeah.
pointing that out.
And they also, they not only did they do that, but they're at the last minute put in the LC tax and the campground tax.
That's right, I remember
the
that
LLC
one.
tax, the campground
Going
tax.
after low-income people. Yeah.
And that was done at the last minute.
Right.
During the budget, which was supposed to have been done that Thursday night at 12 o'clock. It was like 10 o'clock at night when they came in from, I think it was DRA, and they said, we just found you $70 million.
Right. Yeah, because I left, I think it was about 10 that night there. I thought they were going to close and shut down for the night. They were coming to agreement. Then they went into that break, and I left. Then the next day I find out all them taxes and fees that they projected, oh, we got more money,
Oh,
revenue,
the
and raise.
midnight tax
Yeah, the
increases.
midnight tax
Yes.
thing. So
It was-
most people don't believe it.
It was
But
about
he
10
was
o'clock
there.
at night. I was
Yeah.
sitting there, and they came in and they said, we just found you $70 million.
Right.
And 30 of it was the LLC tax. Roughly 10 was the campground tax. And then there was like 4 or 5 different things where they said, well, we can raise the revenue estimates on these, and I don't remember what they were, the 4 or 5 different items, you know.
Yeah, the cigarette
different
tax,
things.
the gas, not the gas tax at that
No,
time.
that was
Yeah,
done
later.
otherwise, but
Right.
there was 4 or 5 different things. They
Yeah.
just said, well, we'll just raise the revenue estimates on
yeah.
this. And then you got to remember the best, and I'm not sure, I think you were there, Al, when Representative Eaton got up on the floor of the House and said, we have to find out how much we spend
Right.
as to how much money we need to raise.
Yes.
Now, I don't know any household in the country that says, well, we have to spend $200,000, but we only make $100,000,
That's
so
right.
we'll just, you know,
Yeah.
make it up somehow.
We'll do the
This,
credit card.
You know, you
And then
can't,
they-
you can't
That's
do that in your
irresponsible, fiscally
personal house.
irresponsible.
Then they
And, but
bonded.
government, government
Right.
can get away with it.
Didn't they bond 200 million, I think, at that time for the road?
They
there
use
was-
a credit card
When we
to
normally play cash,
pay it for a credit
It
card.
was 60 million, if I remember correctly.
60
They
million,
bonded
was it?
60 million, which will cost us over
Right.
the life of the bond, I think 90 million.
Now, when Sherm was there, and he was the chair of transportation, and Gene Chandler
okay.
was public works. They always found money to pay for these projects. You know what I mean? All these road. That's why New Hampshire has great roads. You know, between public works and transportation committee, they've always, you know, come up with a great way. And I know you led that committee, you know, for many years there.
I was chairman for 10 years, and I was, when the Democrats took over, obviously I wasn't, and then I was chairman for 2 more years.
Right, so
Under-
I was a
under Bill
freshman
O'Brien.
for the 162nd state legislature, and that was a supermajority term.
Right,
And
that's the
coming
one
in
we
off of 4 years, I think, of the Democrats being in charge. And at our orientation, I don't remember which Democrat it was. It was one of the women saying, "We don't know where we're going to get the money from. We just decide what we want to spend, and then we try and find the money." I'm like, ugh, I was shocked. But I remember DJ Bentoncourt standing up at the well and saying, "Gone are the days of the midnight tax increases."
yes.
And it was,
Yeah,
there were
that was,
180 freshmen that term, and I think
that
there's
was
like
shameful.
15 of us left.
Well, one of the great things too there is, I know under your leadership and under, you know, what Janine and myself and others there at the House, like, because some of the issues I hear from our seniors here in town, their property tax going up, up. And some people try to blame the state. And I keep telling them, no, it's not the state, because, you know, we have not raised your statewide property tax. Education, what, 9 years? It hasn't gone up,
Something like
maybe?
that, yeah.
Something like that. So most people don't understand, people like you, Sherm, behind the scenes, making damn well sure when the budget goes on, you know.
We do everything we can to make sure there's no downshifting.
Right.
Okay, and that's very important. Every town, every city in this state has got to realize that the majority of their property taxes are controlled by the citizens of that city or town, not by the state. And it's the citizens that have to come out and vote against stuff they don't want. If they don't come to the polls and vote, especially in a municipal
Right.
election, then if we have, what, 16,500 voters in Londonderry?
Right.
And what shows up at a municipal election? 2, maybe 3,000?
Yeah.
That's how all this stuff gets passed.
Yep.
Not
Same
just
in Merrimack.
That's
Londonderry,
right.
but it's same in Merrimack and probably almost every other town.
It's all the town spending, the overtime, the
That's all-
retirement
that's
costs,
all-
everything added in.
That's all.
Right.
That's all because the majority of the people don't come out and vote
Right.
one way or the other.
And what most people don't know also, and I try to explain to some, we sit on the county budget also. And we
Yeah.
do everything we can to keep the county budget in Rockingham County lean. And that way their tax rate does not go up. And
Yeah,
I know you're
it's under
you're
a
a big
dollar.
player on that. Yeah, it's under a dollar.
Yeah, I haven't been recently, but for my first 12 years in the legislature, I was on the county executive committee, and I was actually chairman of the executive committee for 2 years.
Right.
So you're
And,
Rockingham County.
Rockingham County.
I'm in
yeah.
Hillsborough County, and I've only done the minimum, but next term, assuming I get reelected, I'm going to get more involved with the executive committee on the county.
It's time consuming. You know, when I was chairman of the executive committee out there, I mean, I probably spent 6-7 weeks out there total, you know, through the 2-year term. I mean, it was very time consuming.
Right.
It consumed a lot of time.
Yeah, they're always asking me, "Oh, you got to fill out the mileage form." I said, "No, keep the mileage. You know, put it towards the budget. Go because we get paid mileage when we go there. But I think I did it once there, and then I realized, what am I doing for 45? So I tell them, to keep that there. But with the budget that we voted on there, and I think we're 93 million in the rainy day fund that you.
Yeah, we have about 93 million in the rainy day fund right now. And that fluctuates a little bit, obviously. And with the budget we passed, we're putting theoretically, hopefully another 10 million or so in there, and that helps our bond rating.
Right.
And that's what people have to understand. When the Democrats were in charge, we were down, I think, $10 million in the rainy day fund, and that can affect your bond rating as to when you do go out for a bond as to what you're going to pay.
Right.
And so the higher, the more, security you have, the better you can get a bond rating out of.
Did they spend all the money in the rainy day fund when
The
they were in
Democrats
charge?
did.
They spent a good portion of it. Yeah.
I think when they took over, if I'm not mistaken, he probably know better than me then, I think it was about $87 million in that rainy day fund when the Democrats took over in 2006, 7, 8, 9, somewhere around there. Because they were
took
leaning
over in
me for
2007.
years. Yeah, 7.
7,
'Cause
8.
that was my first term.
9 and 10. Yeah.
Yeah, and I voted against those two budgets, the first two budgets here.
Well, we all
I think
did. Republicans did.
But I mean, with his play in there, because he's been up there for a while, and you got somebody like Norm Major, who is unbelievable when it comes to revenue projections, and he tried telling them, and you were there
we
telling
told
them.
We told them.
Yeah, and
you're
they-
going to be $800 million in the red with this budget.
Wow.
And we actually put together a alternative budget. We put together a Republican alternative budget and said, if you pass our budget, we won't have problems next year. And of course, everything we tried to pass, failed. But I knew that we were going to be in a real lot of trouble coming into the next year, and we were.
Was
And
that
it was
the year
almost-
they
I think it
raised
was-
the rooms and meals tax too from 8.5%
to 9%.
To 9%.
It was
That's
8% and it went to 9%.
8% to 9%. That's right, that year.
Yeah.
And I was shocked.
And that's I forget which term it was, but that's when they put in the surcharge on the motor vehicle registrations.
Wow. Now, I don't know how you are in your district there, like under businesses there. I mean, we have some great things. And you're being a business owner, maybe you can explain about what we've done the last couple of years on the business tax to help out businesses.
Well, we've done two things. We've reduced the business profits tax, and it's going to be going down to, I think it's 7.5%.
From 7.9. I got a cheat sheet
7.9,
here.
and it was over 8%. We were up at, I think, 8.5%. And the business enterprise tax, which was put in back in 93, if I remember correctly, 93, and I voted against that, because I knew it would balloon. It started out at 0.25%, and then, sure, what happened was, and then it went to 0.5%, then it went to 0.75%.
Wow.
And, I said, this is a bad thing back in 93 when it was passed. And fortunately, we're bringing that back down to 0.5% from 7.5%.
Now, can you explain to the viewers what that means? What is a business profits tax and a business enterprise
Well,
tax?
business profits tax was
Kind of self-explanatory, that one is.
usually paid for by the larger businesses back in, prior to 93. You had the major companies were
BAE,
paying,
yeah.
paying the business profits tax. The business enterprise tax is you pay 0.75% of your employees' salary. That was the court case that was going on back then. That was brought before the court that said that the big businesses were paying, but all the smaller businesses weren't paying, like your doctors' offices and lawyers and professional people. And that's how we ended up with the business enterprise tax.
Okay. Well, I see businesses. I mean, here in New Hampshire, that Christmas tree bill, which I was on the on the
Explain
fence
the
with
Christmas
that.
tree bill
The
for people
Christmas
that don't
tree
know
bill.
what we're
We had a
talking
bill
about.
that came in because with Trump, with the president, when they dropped the taxes, our businesses now were making more revenue. So the state was paying more. We were getting more tax money. So there, I think, $120 million that more money was coming in than what was projected. So they went to bridges, roads, and there was some other stuff that I was unhappy with because I felt that it didn't have the proper hearings in those committees. And I understand that it was finance that did that. So I was against that as a Liberty guy, and I know you were in the right mind because after I looked at it later, I said, geez, maybe they were right on that. But it passed anyways. I think, what was it, 100 and something million to go out in all these projects?
Well, which bill is that?
The
I'm
one,
trying to
it was the
remember.
bill that we just passed just before
just-
before we were done, just recently,
Oh,
100
okay,
and something
all right,
million
okay,
of
all
extra
right,
money.
yeah.
But it went through finance, but it didn't go through the actual policy
Yeah.
committee.
Yeah.
So that's where I had the issue. You know what I mean? Because finance came up with these numbers through the working with the treasurer and other stuff there and what money was coming in.
Yeah, some of that stuff, was practical.
Right.
You know.
I agreed on some of it,
You know,
yeah.
and unfortunately, when you have a Christmas tree bill like that,
Right.
You've got to try and weigh the good and the bad.
Yeah.
There's some bad. I don't think there's ever been a budget put forth in this country,
Right.
any place,
Yeah.
that everybody was happy with.
Right. Oh,
There's
yeah,
always something
yeah.
that you're not going to like about it. But then you got to sit and weigh the good and the bad.
Right.
When it gets way out of shape, like when the Democrats passed that budget, then you're going to be in trouble.
Right.
There was more bad than good.
Oh, you
Now,
ain't kidding. Yeah.
why is that bill called the Christmas tree bill?
It's gifts that go out to build and help out money. He was involved with the 10-year plan for many years.
It's called I don't know where it actually came from initially, but as long as I've been there, it's been called,
HB2, I think, right?
HB2 was always
Yeah.
called the Christmas tree
House
bill.
Bill 2.
It's been cut down quite a bit from what it
Mm-hmm.
used to be. I mean, there used to be 5 pages of footnotes, per se, that, used to be added on and
Mm-hmm.
added on and added on. And a lot of that's gone by the wayside now. It's
Mm-hmm.
much more realistic. But in the same respect, it's where you tack everything onto it.
But Christmas tree farmers are not
No,
affected
no,
by
it,
this.
no, it
Mm-hmm.
has nothing to
Well-
nothing to do with it. It's like if you overdo your Christmas tree, put too many bulbs on it or something.
Yeah, right.
I've done that.
Well, the budget does not work unless HB2, because that's where all the laws
Right.
are to make the budget go in different directions to work. It's like the wheel.
One is the appropriation.
Right.
2 is what makes it work.
Yeah. Another thing what Londonderry residents aren't aware of, exit 4A could have cost us a lot more money. And Sherm and I have been involved and other reps from Londonderry to make sure exit 4A was paid for by the state and not going after the taxpayers for more bond money there. And I appreciate
Well,
your play in
yeah,
that there, and you and Senator Sharon Carson on the Senate side.
That thing has gone from $10 million to over $50 million.
Right. Over the time.
But you got to consider the widening of 93 too.
Right.
It's gone from what? I think it started out at $175 million, and now it's what? $900 million.
Is it a never-ending project?
No,
Will
it's
it
supposed
ever
to be
see the
done
light
by
of day?
2020, because that's when all the permits run out. That's why we're really under the gun to get the thing done and finished by 2020, because all your federal permits run out
Right.
at that point. So it has to be done.
I wanted to bring that out because most Londonderry residents don't know what Sherm Packard does or what Al Baldessar or Janine Naw behind the scenes, to make things happen. And I know I contacted the engineer for Exit 4, I mean not Exit 4, but the Knott School. Brought him in and introduced him and got them working with Tom. Kevin Smith here in town to put a light down there by Knott School. And I know you've been a big player on other stuff there and doing, looking out for Londonderry, and most people don't see that. They don't know what goes on behind the scenes.
Very few people, unless you're up there, know what really goes on up there. And, that's what we get all our money for, okay? That's what we get our $100 a year for,
Right.
is to
Before
go up
taxes.
there and do this stuff and not, jump in front of the newspaper all the time and trying to, get as many accolades as you can.
Right.
You go up there, you do your job, and hopefully the citizens realize you've done your job, and, if you run again, they re-elect you.
Right, and I see the Democrats here in town, their chair, because they didn't have anyone else to run against Senator Sharon Carson. The chairman put her name on there. She's just what we call a line filler. Because they had nobody to run against Sharon Carson, who does a great job
Yes,
for
she
Londonderry.
does.
And we have some great reps. I think was Betsy McKinney, Finance.
She was finance, she's not on it anymore.
Right, and then she moved to another committee there, but she did a great job, because that's 4 days a week, or 5, 6
Oh,
days a week.
during the
Fine,
budget cycle,
yeah.
it's 7 days a week.
7 days a week, yeah.
And Doug Thomas is on Science,
yeah,
Tech,
Doug,
and Energy. He was
yeah.
the clerk this past term.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what do you think about this is our first election, at least since I've been there, 6 terms, we don't have a primary. I won't know how to handle myself.
I think it was 7 elections ago was the last time we didn't have a primary.
Yeah.
I think my wife was town chair at that point, you know, and it just happened to luck out. We didn't have a primary. And, you know, now we can concentrate on letting the public know, you know, what we've accomplished over the
Right.
last, 4 years. And,
We
you
got
know,
a
I
packet
think,
here.
we've got a,
Oh,
got a
there's-
whole packet here
there's
that we
quite
can
a
go
bit,
over.
I mean,
But
Making
you know,
New Hampshire more business friendly, election integrity. You want to talk about that?
well, my bill is the one that's in court, 1264.
And what is 1264? That's
It's
for the people watching.
what we
House
want to do is it's been stated that we're against college students voting,
Right.
which is
Which we're not.
absolute falsehood. We're not against any college student voting. All we're saying is if you want to vote in New Hampshire and not the state you came from and live in, then become a resident of the state of New Hampshire.
Right.
And I kind of equated it this way. We've got a lot of people in this state, in Londonderry, a lot of them, that'll go to Florida for 4 or 5, 6 months out of the year. They're residing there, but they're not residents.
Right.
Right.
Mhm. Same thing with the military.
Well, the students that are voting here, they're not getting in-state tuition.
No.
So they don't live
They're-
here. They just go to
They're-
school
yeah,
here.
they have out-of-state driver's licenses. Their vehicles are registered out of
But
state.
they get to vote in our local elections.
they get
and
to vote in our
doesn't
local
make
elections.
sense to
So
me.
they're actually stealing from the cities, in my opinion, they're stealing from the cities and towns because they should be registering their cars in the.
They should
be
become
getting
residents of
driver's
the state of New
license.
Hampshire if
Right.
you want to vote in the state of New Hampshire.
And I went to the floor in support of that. When and when I brought up the question, I should say, about military that are stationed in our state, if they're not a resident, they're required to do a absentee ballot for their home of record. So why are college students any better than our veterans that are stationed in their state, that they can't do absentee ballot in their own state, and they're throwing off our elections?
And again, it's anybody. I mean, I own some commercial property in Manchester. I can't vote in Manchester.
Right.
I used to own a small camp up on in Bath, New Hampshire, on the Wild Emmanuzic River. I sold it, but I mean, I couldn't vote up there. No matter how long I
Right.
stayed up there in the summertime,
that was-
I had to vote in Londonderry.
You think the
I mean-
governor's going to sign that?
Well, it's in the court.
Well,
You
what-
send it
he
to the
sent it
court.
there for
You send it to the
administrative
court for an
decision.
opinion.
Right.
how
Frankly,
long
I
is
wish
that
he had.
gonna take?
I wish he had signed it.
Yeah.
I wish he had to.
You know, but I mean, it's in front of the court right now.
Right.
Let's just hope it comes back positive because, this is a matter of integrity of our elections.
Right, and the laws are already in place that if you're in New Hampshire, I don't know what it is, 6 months of, I don't know how many days, you might know that you're required to change over your car if you live here.
If you become a resident, I think it's less than that. I think you have a certain amount of time if. Like I just had some new neighbors move in a couple years ago, right next to me. They moved up from Massachusetts. Great people, and they wanted to vote up here, and they went ahead and did everything they had to do right away.
Right.
So they could vote. But they bought a house and they have their property tax
Right.
and everything else,
Yes.
so they have a right to vote.
That's right.
Changed everything over to New Hampshire registrations, got their New Hampshire licenses. They're permanent residents of New Hampshire
Yeah.
now. They're not going to come here for a few months out of the year
Right.
and then go back home and we'll never see them again.
Yeah.
We have a long list here. We're not going to be able to talk about all these points, and we did touch on energy when we had Representative Michael Vose on. He was like, he's on Science, Tech, and Energy with Doug Thomas and I. Just incredibly smart man.
Well, you people are on a different plane on science and tech. I mean, you're about the only people that understand what you're talking about are you people.
Well, and I'm the
I
only
filled in with
Republican woman on that committee, so it's me and the guys. And when the Democrats were talking about all the guys being misogynist, I went, "You guys hate me?" Like, no, they don't hate me.
I sat in on a couple executive sessions there, and
Yeah.
It was
no,
interesting.
it's a good group to work with.
Now-
And I make them bring it down to my level so that I can understand, because I'm not high tech either. And then I help write up blurbs for the House Republican Alliance so that the rest of the House can understand what's going on, because it can get technical, and I bring it down to layman's terms so we understand it.
Yeah, you know, there was some good things on the aids to the cities and towns that we did under that budget, because I think the governor brought a check
Education,
in
Health and Human
to
Services,
Londonderry,
there's just a
delivered
lot
a
of
check
Yes,
there
he
for
did.
roads and bridges
public
there.
safety.
Yeah, I can't remember how much
Yeah.
it was, but he did deliver a
We,
check.
we,
to him,
we
yeah.
got about 2 minutes. Can you explain so people understand the money that we make sure comes back to the town under the gas tax, rooms and meals tax?
12%.
12%.
It's 12%.
We get that comes to our town back.
It comes back to our towns for local roads.
Right.
You know, all state roads.
That's through the gas tax.
That's through the gas tax and the registration fees. That's what goes into the highway fund.
Right.
And honestly, with all these new electric
And they just
vehicles
raised
and
that.
everything else, we are facing a serious dilemma, not just in New Hampshire,
Right.
but in the United States. We're well over $1 trillion behind what we should be in fixing and just maintaining our roads and bridges in this country, in the infrastructure. Because of the decline in gas tax revenue. It was back in 2008, the last year of George Bush's administration, that the general fund had to start putting money into the federal highway fund just to make sure that the states got what they were promised.
Right.
And it's been increasing every year as to what the general fund has to put into the federal highway fund.
Yeah, because I think Londonderry's getting almost 600,000. I'm not sure how much.
Are there holes in
know,
the bucket still? Are they still using that fund for
Yes.
other things?
Well, by the Constitution, they have a right to do
Yeah.
that.
Sherm, let me ask you real quick. How do people get in touch with you there? Do you have a website or anything?
I don't have a website, but I do have a email.
And they get you at
it's-
the Lions Club.
And they get me at the Lions Club. It's Sherm, SHERM _ Packard at,
We'll put that up on the screen.
at juno.com.
Okay, Sherm, thanks for coming in. I can't
Well,
believe this
thank
half
you.
hour went real quick.
I wish we had more time.
Yeah, you ain't kidding.
It goes by so fast.
Yeah,
I'm like, I don't
unbelievable,
think
huh?
it's
See how
over already.
time flies when you're having fun?
Yeah.
The real tax makes sure, right here, man, to make sure there's no taxes.
And for political
and spending.
junkies like us,
Right.
it's like, it goes
This
by
is Who's
fast.
Looking Out for You, and we'll be back with another great show with a great guest again. Thank you.